And without much ado, we dive straight into our special address, Point of View, India Emerging as a Global Tech Leader, an imperative toolkit to the vision of Viksit Bharat at 2047, building on the strong foundation of US-India strategic partnership. And joining us on Zoom is Mukesh Aghi, President and CEO, US-India Strategic Partnership Forum, a very high-profile gentleman. Mukesh Aghi is the President and Chief Executive Officer of US-India Strategic Partnership Forum, which is the largest independent not-for-profit entity based out of Washington, D.C. It focuses on beg your pardon? Focuses on building strong partnership between the US and India. So it's over to you, Mukesh, if you're there. Yes, please.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hi, very good afternoon, Mukesh. We can hear you well, so you can continue.
All right. Well, thank you, Rakesh, and everybody else for having me. I thought with the current state of the world, and you have a new administration coming in Washington, D.C., let me just basically focus on geopolitics and then come down to GCC as to what impact and what role you will play and the opportunities which are there or may not be there. I think it's important to understand that when you go back to Second World War, what we had was a US which came out as a dominant power. Europe was decimated, so was part of Asia Pacific, including Japan and Eastern Asia. And US became the sole superpower until the Cold War started with the Soviet Union. But you also have to understand that after the Second World War, what we had also a Europe, which is a dominant power in the 17th, 18th, and 19th century. And the dominance of Europe was tied to colonization. And after Second World War, what we saw was the colonies were seeking independence, including India. And as they went through their own independence, their sourcing from those colonies starts stopping into Europe itself. So the wealth creation, which made it Europe such a rich country, stopped being there after the Second World War. Not immediately, 40s, 50s, and 60s, country were able to get independence. So what we saw was basically gradual decline of Europe from an economic perspective. In fact, pound was the global currency, and that switched after Second World War into dollar being the dominant currency. Pound was seen as the sovereign power in the sense from a financial perspective, and dollar became the dominant power. In fact, today also, when you look at the reserve of most nations are in dollar. In fact, 60% globally reserves are in dollar. And if you look at the trade factor, it goes into almost 80%. So when you look at after Second World War, when the Cold War started, what we had was a stress point building up between Soviet Union, United States, and the Allies itself. But it did not have what we call is a total war. You had transactional war itself. And meanwhile, US built its economy, it rebuilt Japan, it built Europe generously, and kept on building the momentum going forward. Since the Second World War, we've had what we call is individual transactional war, for example, Vietnam, or you have the wars like Iraq or Afghanistan, or terrorist bombing of 9/11 taking place, but not a total war. And a definition of a total war is when a nation's resources, economies, technology focuses on trying to making sure that the war is won. And after Second World War, for the first time, what we're seeing is Ukraine has evolved into a total war. 40% of Russia's GDP today is focused on its fight with Ukraine itself. In fact, every aspect of its GDP is now moving in that direction. Ukraine doesn't have much resources, but what it has done is for the first time disrupted completely I call the order which was set up after Second World War. What we are seeing is complete disintegration of global institutions set up by the United States. Well, the UN has become very ineffective, and we saw that very much, and we are seeing it in Gaza. When you look at the WTO becoming very ineffective, the power of World Bank and IMF is also becoming less effective itself. So what we are seeing is a trend where there's a disintegration of international order and stress point coming in, which we've not seen in the last 50 years. When I say stress point, you look at Russia, you look at China, you look at Iran, North Korea, building a bloc. And they are also basically putting pressure, going down into the BRIC countries to see how they can build a separate bloc to the United States itself. And what we're also seeing is the effort to have de-dollarization, with the exception of Brazil and India opposing alternate currency or BRIC currency itself. The pressure from Russia, pressure from China is to get into de-dollarization space and try to bring an alternate currency to dollar itself. So what we are seeing is a stress which is getting country from, instead of globalization, balkanization is taking place, both from a digital perspective, from an economy perspective, and also from a physical perspective. Now, what we are seeing is that the current election which took place in the United States, you have a president who was convicted as a felon with all the stuff which was put up the media. He won the Senate, the House, and the popular vote itself. And the reason behind that is very simple. US as a country has been a very, very generous country. It has, after Second World War, rebuilt Japan, rebuilt Europe. Its fight with Vietnam has rebuilt Vietnam itself. And basically, what we are seeing is over $100 billion has been spent with Ukraine war by the US. People said we need to stop this in the United States because there is hunger, there is poverty. Unemployment is still 4% and below, but what you're seeing is employment with skilled people is going up, but the blue collar employment is going more towards the illegal immigrants, which we are making almost 16 million of them. And the top three countries which are sending illegal immigrants into United States is Mexico, El Salvador, and India. In fact, last year, almost 90,000 Indian illegal migrants were caught at the border itself. So what we are seeing, on the average, 10 illegal Indians are coming to the United States. Now, the two themes which Trump had, one was definitely illegal migration, and the second was economy itself. So what we are going to see when Trump comes in is yes, he talks about make America great again, focus on America first itself. The objective here is to basically first is deal with the illegal immigration, but that has an impact on legal immigration. When you look at H-1B, 70% of the winner of the H-1B lottery are Indians itself. And in some cases, the H-1B visa process has been abused substantially itself. And today we have roughly 2 million H-1B visa holder, and most of them are Indians in the US itself. But more important is when you look at the America First and the impact it has on India, impact as it has on GCC, as you look at that, is going to be substantial. But I think it also depends how we as a country react to Trump's policy, how we as companies deal with the new policy is going to define where you succeed and where you fail itself. So let's talk about America first. America first is basically trying to bring back manufacturing. For the last 40 years, most of the manufacturing has moved out of the United States, mainly to China. Trump believes that if you put 60% tariffs on China and put 20% tariffs on the rest of the country, other countries, manufacturing will come back. But at the same time, this is more of a, I call the negotiation ploy on part of Trump itself, because he knows that it took 40 years for the manufacturing to move out, and basically it'll take time for it to come back. So other nations have a role to play. So when we talk about China plus one strategy, I would say we should now change the narrative from an India perspective. We should say US plus one strategy. Why US plus one strategy? Because most of the manufacturing will not move overnight into the US, but some manufacturing will start moving. And it's going to be high-end manufacturing. For example, massive effort is being put in on chip manufacturing. We have plants in Ohio, Arizona, and New York itself. But US is going to manufacture chips which are 7 nanometers and less, whereas India is focused on chip manufacturing, but its objective is 20 nanometers and upward itself. So there's a complementary approach. So you can have America first and Atmanirbhar Bharat also working together to drive this partnership. But more important is there is a stress point which is going to take place more and more between US and China, both from a geopolitical perspective, economic perspective, and technological perspective also. So what we will see is as the stress point gets deeper, wider between US and China, India has to play a pivotal role trying to see how it can leverage this stress point to its own advantage. That means working with America on the America first, at the same time, focus on secure sourcing. And the reason I say secure sourcing and not friendshoring or outsourcing is that India is a quad partner with the United States. You have 4 countries, US, Japan, Australia, and India, which basically make up Quad, whose objective is to secure the Indo-Pacific region. And the Quad, if you look at the 4 countries, GDP is around $35 trillion. And these Quad countries are focused on secure supply chain. They're focused on cybersecurity. They're focused on cooperating quantum side, basically on the AI side. And so we can somehow build and work with the Trump administration to say a partner in Quad is your best partner in secure sourcing also. So we believe that you can combine a security aspect of a partnership with the United States into an economic partnership with the United States. And that's the agenda we're driving as the new administration comes in. But more important is that as US looks at legal immigration, which is we are trying to propose that pick up PhDs with STEM program, give them green card immediately as they graduate itself. So we're trying to push much more on the legal immigration, but illegal immigration will have an impact on legal immigration. And the reason I say that is when the Canadian Prime Minister came last week, Trudeau, to meet with Trump, basically the objective was Trump put 25%, want to put 25% of tariff on Canada and Mexico because of the illegal immigration coming in. India is the 3rd largest. So sometime, Trump will also address illegal immigration coming from India by putting some tariffs. Now, it could be not just tariffs itself, it could be on mobility. It could be in some aspect of put stress point on India to stop this illegal immigration coming into the United States. So what we are seeing is this will have an impact, a ripple impact on global supply chain. You'll have major disruption taking place. But more important, what we see is that on the skilled resources, instead of moving people from India to US, we will see more SMEs, and SMEs, our definition is companies with $5 to $10 billion revenue, will start setting up GCC centers in India. They may not set up their own center, it may be on a shared basis, but they are realizing that to get skilled resources in US will become more difficult in the next 12 months because they're going to handle both legal and illegal immigration itself. You have to understand, on the illegal immigration, the immediate impact will be the grocery stores, the farms, the construction workers, all the blue-collar labor workers where the local Americans don't want to work. That is going to drive wages. That's going to drive inflation. Then when we look at on the legal side, because they have to, it'll take them time to fix that, you will see a massive effort to stop also that. And since you can't find skilled resources in the US, they will move a lot of this innovation, R&D towards India itself. So I see an opportunity, but I see also some danger points happening as you look at Trump administration comes in. But I think India is in a sweet spot. When I look at the new appointments coming in, you have Mark Rubio, who is a Secretary of State as an appointee, a big fan of India. You have basically the CIA director, who is a big fan of India. You have Mark Waltz, who will be appointed as National Security Advisor. And last year we brought him to India at the 15th of August at the fort. So he's a big fan of India. So I think India is a sweet spot. What we have to do is make sure we play it wisely to ensure that the success, the progress, and the partnership between the two countries continues. So I am going to stop here and get into Q&A, but I just want to lay the groundwork framework as to what we are seeing is a major global shift taking place. And we as a nation, India, which has an aspiration to be a $10 trillion economy and go beyond that, we have to ensure that next 20 years, there is enough peace around India so it can focus on economic growth of 7, 8, or 9%. Otherwise, if that's interrupted, then the dream of $10 trillion is not going to happen. Thank you. I'm open for questions to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aghi. As Dr. Aghi said, he could take a few questions. So if anyone amongst the audience has anything to ask of him. Here, over here.
Hi, Mukesh. This is Ajay Wadhwa. Thanks for sharing the geopolitical situation in Americas where the government is thinking about bringing manufacturing back or a GCC impact as well. So this is something which the government is thinking about it. Just wanted to get your perspective, how the companies are seeing that. What's their mood in general is?
So corporate America is very excited about Trump administration. One is there will be a lowering of taxes. The second factor is going to be there'll be a lot of major deregulation. You must have heard of DOGE, which between Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. What their objective is, we have roughly 400 agencies in US government, and their objective is to basically demolish 300 of those agencies. Their objective is to bring $2 trillion expenses of government down itself from over $5.5 trillion. And so you will see initially confusion, disruption, but as time goes by, you will see that the government is becoming more efficient and more cost effective. Now, from a company perspective, they also realize that they cannot get out of China overnight. They have a lot of business in China, which they don't want to give up. Example, Apple. Apple has set up manufacturing in India. It is supplying almost 25% of iPhone 16 out of Tamil Nadu. They have exported this year over $10 billion worth of their iPhone equipments out of India to the rest of the world. but it also has 80 plus billion dollars of revenue in China, which it cannot give up overnight. So it's a classic scenario which other companies are also facing is how do you basically not lose the domestic market in China, but don't get caught up in the strategic battle between the United States and China itself. So what we are seeing is almost every company has frozen their investment in China. And that does not mean that they are moving everything to India. You have Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, other countries which are playing a pivotal role. But what we are seeing is India does become important to these countries because India, besides having all the skilled resources and young working power, it is a market also. When you look at Apple, Apple 3 years ago had a very minimal business in India. Today, it has crossed $5 billion in domestic revenue also. So it's a combination of moving business here, combination of trying to get market share, and the more important is countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, Philippines, they have limitation on scale of resources also, whereas India has a tremendous scalability, quality resources, which can be taken up to very high level. I mean, today, again, I give the example Apple. Apple is reaching almost 190,000 employees in India, and almost 70% are women. So what we are seeing is the scale is going to come as you bring in mass manufacturing. So India does get critical, but more important is what we are seeing from the Ukraine war is that if you're going to have a sustainable war, you need to have an industrial base. China has the industrial base. That industrial base is supplying stuff to Russia to fight its war with Ukraine. US is supplying equipment to Ukraine and other European countries, but its industrial base has shrunken dramatically. And so India becomes a critical partner as a security partner to be the industrial base. So today, if you look at the Javelin missiles, the Stinger missiles, which are so efficient and effective in Ukraine, part of the components are being built in India. Sikorsky helicopter, which the president of US flies in, the cabins are made in India. So I think as time goes by, you will see that India's role, both in the skill side and manufacturing side, and becoming industrial base to the US will become critical. So to answer your question, corporate America is happy about Trump administration. Corporate America would like to leverage India both as a market and as a resource for its growth story.
Mukesh, hi, this is Atul Kulshresh from Quintus Global. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Thank you. One thing which I'm also observing about the new administration is that they will, because of the MAGA, they would want to keep more jobs in US, right? So what do you think is the potential of setting up local capability centers within US?
So when I say US plus one, that is what it is about, setting up local capability center backed by capability centers in India itself. And we are seeing that especially in manufacturing. You look at basically large companies where contract manufacturing on the low end is moving to India, and then the final components are being done in the US, and so that's becoming China plus one strategy. So I think from a services perspective, yes, you can set it up. The challenge I am seeing there is that can you find cost-effective resources which can make you competitive on a global basis? And that is a big challenge, because I think if you set up a center, let's say in Alabama or Kentucky, where the wages are low, skills is a problem. Now, if you move down to, let's say, California, skills is not a problem, but the cost is a problem. And so I think you'll have to figure out how to find that balance.
And that is a big challenge, getting the talent in US, right? Because for decades, manufacturing has been happening in China and, Southeast Asian countries, right? Bringing that back in US, I was, watching some of the videos and podcasts, and people are saying, where is the skill in US? Where is the technical skill? So they will still have to figure out a way to get the talent back into US?
So, and you're very much right, because, if you look at the three chip plants being set up in Ohio and Arizona and New York, the biggest challenge they're facing is they can't find skilled workers. And I think that's where India can play a very pivotal role.
Exactly.
That's where I think we have to explore the partnership. And it's a classic case, what we're doing with Israel. Israel asked, like 3 months ago, we want 2,000 IT workers. And before that, asked for 100,000 blue collar worker, replacing Ghazians and others itself. I think we can basically, in a constructive manner, say to the US, we can basically supply you skilled workers who are efficient, who are intelligent, who are law abiding, who can basically merge with the society, because we come from a multicultural environment itself. So I think that's an opportunity, and that's what we are feeding. I'm in Delhi to the Indian government to start thinking from that perspective, because we don't have the skills. Until we have the skills, you can't get manufacturing back.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We can probably take just one more question, if there's anyone.
Hey, hi,
That will
Mukesh.
be the last question.
Hey, hi, Mukesh. This is Mayank. So my question is, what policy change you anticipate from Trump administration, which may impact GCC, especially in India?
So it's too early to say in regards to services impacting, because at the moment they're focused more on putting tariffs on goods coming in. They have not come back from any aspect of services coming in, which are being done in India, and then you basically IP moves back to the US. They're not very clear about it. And I think it'll be very dangerous for them to touch that part, because what the GC centers are doing is massive innovation to US company mainly. I think, as I understand, 60% of the GCCs in India are the US companies itself. And they are able to get tremendous innovation. In fact, I was trying to Qualcomm, 50% of the IP now is coming out of India. And if they try to do the same stuff in the US, they'll end up paying 5 times what they're paying here itself. And so by using GC centers in India, they're becoming competitive, they're becoming cost effective. So I have my doubts that they will do anything with that. But I can't say by 100% surety that they will not do it, because sometimes emotions are so high on the job creation that irrationality can come in and have that impact. But we are in DC. We're trying to make sure that they don't go in that direction, and we'll keep you posted if they go in that direction.
No, I agree what you're saying. It's just too early to predict anything. But compared to previous ruling by Trump and now, right? So that point of time, also we had a lot of threat that Trump has came and he has put up a lot of um, policies which was not very favor, but we developed a lot in last 4 5 years. So in that terms, if you can put your comments if you have any.
So I think you have to understand, last time when Trump came in, he did not expect to win. So he was not ready with the game plan. He was not ready with the team. He didn't have a vision document. But now, if you look at the Vision 2025 by Heritage Foundation, that's a document, an 800-page document in every aspect defined by the experts. That's the playbook they have. They have basically almost announced the full cabinet, and it's only a 1 month after the election results which came out. But more important is they have set up a think tank which has been screening people for the last 4 years who will come into this administration. So when you have a new administration comes in, roughly 4,500 jobs transit. And these are political appointees all the way from cabinet level to a policy number cruncher itself. So what we are seeing is this time they're coming much more prepared. They have a clearly defined agenda. And I can tell you by guarantee, I was in the White House last week, they're preparing executive orders day one. You'll have dozens of executive orders coming in to keep on driving the objectives they have. You have to understand 2026 will be the midterm. If they don't execute their agenda in first 2 years, then they will not be able to make it the second 2 years itself. So they have to execute with efficiency, with speed, and with some brutality also. You will see, for example, on the illegal immigration, they have names of around 950,000 people who have gone through the legal process. And I think they will just catch them, put them in encampment, and then just ship them to the respective countries itself. It's going to be brutal, it's going to be ugly, but they mean business this time. So I would say that they'll come out quite efficiently this time.
Thank you. Thanks for input. Thank you.
I think on Dr. Aghi, thank you for your time and address. I think we are very delighted to hear some of the thoughts which you shared today. I think on the behalf of the entire gathering here, we'd like to express our gratitude to you. And as you know, SSF is a forum by practitioners, for the practitioners in the GBS, GCC space, and we are continuing with that mission. We look forward to having more dialogue with US ISPF and seeing how we can take this mission forward, really making that opportunity for both the countries, as you talked about, the emotions are taken care of at both the sides, but at the same time, the opportunities are also really explored. So we'll continue to work with you and the organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rakesh, and all the best to all of you. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.